Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Your Retirement Elevated.
They do by default, because usually, so the question is basically the home routers that you get from Cox Communications, or y'all are lucky up here, you get Google Fiber up here in some places. I'm jealous, so.
Should you be updating those as well, because,
yeah.
And is there a possibility you can run a router to another router and give you double protection?
So the last question, running a router into a router for double protection, no, not necessarily. Usually what happens is exploits don't occur in the traditional sense. Remember the movie Hacker with Angelina Jolie or something along those lines? Or any of these TV shows, CSI, Miami, or whatever it may be, and they'll kind of give you this image of somebody sitting behind a laptop and they're hacking through a firewall and they're gonna get through your network and they're gonna hit your device. They don't have to. Nobody does that except for, realistically, except for really powerful foreign nations. China, Russia employ entire teams of people to do that against our critical infrastructure. Nobody is going to expend the resource and the highly talented individual to try to hack your network in that way because they don't have to. They wait for you on your device to go to a website. You bypass all that with whatever you download or whatever you click on. And now, none of that applies because you've bypassed it. And so in that term, yes, you should absolutely update your router to standards. You don't have to update them nearly as often as a PC. Once a year or so would probably be adequate for that. The big thing is don't allow your password to be something super simple, and don't have an open Wi-Fi around your house because they call it war driving, but people will drive around looking for open Wi-Fi. If they can connect to your Wi-Fi without a password protection or anything, they can now snoop on your network and listen to web traffic. And they can do things like that. So make sure there's a password, update the router, and you should be good to go. But looping two routers together in most cases won't do much for you. That answer your question? Excellent. Yeah, so depending on what you're doing, I usually, depending on your technical prowess, your cable companies most often will allow you to rent one from them for $5 or $10 a month, and then they manage it to a large degree. You can set the password on it, and that's fine, they manage it. If you don't want to pay that fee, you can certainly acquire your own, and in some cases, if you have a large home, you're gonna want to get somebody to put one in anyway because one single access point isn't gonna cover your whole house. You're not gonna have good Wi-Fi everywhere. So you might need a repeater in different areas or something similar. In those cases, there are some brands out there, your main core brands, like your Asus makes some nice ones. You've got, at a more advanced, what we call a prosumer level, you've got Unify equipment from Ubiquity that's getting up into that real advanced level. I can send out some examples of some really good ones. They kind of change so rapidly, and they, like many tech tools out there, they move on to a new version the next year, and then they stop updating the old one. And so I almost think it's better for most users, unless you're looking for something to tinker with from a tech sphere, that you just use the one from your cable company, because once a year, rather than you mess with it, you can just call in, tell them that you're having some issues with slowness, and ask them to replace it. And so no cost, you're rotating to a newer model. That answer your question? Awesome. So basically, I wanted to cover with you real quick, there's a number of different exposure methods, and it looks like I got something that copy-pasted on the top of there, I apologize. But basically, these are the common threats that you'll potentially get hit with, or somebody in your family. Credit card theft. If that does occur, what should you do in the event of that occurring? And I'm more than happy to send this slide as well out through Scott's team once this is all wrapped up. Call your credit card issuer, report the stolen card immediately. The faster you prevent more charges, the easier it's gonna be for you to work with them. Credit card company almost always is gonna revert a single charge like it's no big deal. If you've let it go for weeks without letting them know, and now they've gotta go fight back numerous charges, a lot of times they'll drag their feet on a lot of that because again, it's a headache for them to go clear a lot of it. And then they're starting to ask, why didn't you notice this? Why haven't you let us know earlier? So on and so forth. Another thing is, any charge you make on the internet, if at all possible, use a credit card. Your debit cards are not covered the same way your credit cards are. So in the event of a breach or an unknown charge, I've had this happen to me personally with my father and I invest in some real estate. We have a banking account for that. It was actually, we put our water bill on one of those buildings with a local water company. They had a breach, and we had errant charges from our bank. Since it was on a debit card, the debit card company told us, you're just out that money. Wouldn't refund us, wouldn't even entertain the idea. And that's a local credit union. So please, anything that you do, log anywhere, if at all possible. Put it on a credit card, pay that credit card off at the end of the month. It adds so much protection for you in the event somebody does get that credit card. And again, I did nothing wrong. The water company is the one who had a breach, and now my credit card that I gave them, or in this case, my debit card was breached. So sometimes unavoidable. Review your statements, et cetera, et cetera. Identity theft is one of the ones that's most complex. Leverage a credit lock if at all possible. If you're not doing a lot of credit checks, or if you are rather, this becomes a little challenging. If you're constantly having credit checked because you're standing up a new business, if you're investing in some things where that's going to occur, constantly calling and unlocking and locking can become tedious and in some cases can cause you problems and you miss out on deals. I totally get it. If you're not doing that, there should be no qualms with locking your credit. And that will protect you in many cases from a lot of fraud because everything that they're going to do, go buy a car, try to get a loan, online instant loans, they can't because the credit check will fail immediately when they try to impersonate you. So I highly encourage that if you don't need it, or if you're only occasionally needing to lock that credit. Again, contact credit reporting agencies. When you do that, locally, call police immediately and get a case number. In most of the firms that you'll talk to, when you report fraud, or if you're trying to get something reverted, they're going to ask you to refer to a local police reference ID for a case number. And if without that, they're not going to move anything forward because in their system, it's a requirement that they log that. So one of the first things I suggest is call the local police station, sheriff's office, get that filed. They're not going to functionally be able to do anything other than giving you a case number, but that case number will be used in everywhere else you try to call and try to resolve things. When you contact your insurance companies, even in the event of a claim for something like that, having that police report lends credence to the fact that this is not insurance fraud. So now they're not going to think, hey, is somebody just trying to file a fraudulent claim with us and cash out? There's a real police report, they'll verify it. It bypasses a lot of those checks. And then obviously monitoring credit reports. We have on there, contact the IRS in terms of identity theft. The reason that's on there is in many cases, identity theft doesn't stop at trying to buy a car, trying to take out a loan. It'll involve somebody trying to, an illegal alien, illegal resident, trying to actually get a job registered as you. And now the IRS gets involved in at the end of the year, you don't want to catch a tax statement and have to fight that for the next year with the IRS. If you can get ahead of it, tell them that it was fraudulent and you don't ever get the tax statement for that fraudulent worker, if you will. Password theft is another one. The first things first, if you can get back into those systems, change the password immediately to try to eliminate the threat. From there, the trick is, do you remember where you reused that password on every site over the last multiple years? And that's why I suggest those password managers. If you don't use the same password on all the sites, you can simply reset the password and you're good to go. If you don't know where all that password was used, you're probably not sleeping well at night knowing what could this person possibly get into because that password was exposed. That's about it for those. Really wanted to cover with you some new stuff that's scary. It is also some really cool technology that you'll probably see or potentially already use at home in AI. We've seen everything ever since NVIDIA's CEO got on stage and said AI like 57 times in a single meeting. Their stock went through the roof, right? Everybody wants to do AI now. But what is AI? AI is really 3 different sets of technologies at its core that people are rolling up under the term AI. Robotic process automation, chatbots and large language models, which I'll explain a little bit what they are. And then you have your just standard automations or machine learning that's been around for years. And now everybody's calling it AI. The big change has been those large language models. This is the real threat to you all and how I have to deal with it on a daily basis. What used to be an easy spot, fractured English when you have these foreign actors sending emails. Hey, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound like natural English. Now these attackers can use these tools to create a completely human, natural English sounding email, or even replicate a real email from Amazon simply by asking an AI tool to do that for them. It makes the threat of realistic looking phishing attempts so much more advanced because they can happen at such a rapid rate, and any Yahoo overseas can do this, even if they don't even speak English at all. And so you have to be extra vigilant about what you look at in your email. ChatGPT in general, I encourage people to use it. It's a very cool tool if you have questions, almost like a search engine, right? ChatGPT is what's considered a pre-trained large model, meaning they've scoured the internet, chosen billions of sources of data to pre-train an AI tool to learn from it. And now when you, much like a search engine, ask a question, it'll give you a response based on everything the computer, if you will, has learned from all that material. The thing you have to be careful with is it's very cool if you want it to pre-type up a presentation or an email for you and give you a starter for it. If you want to write a book, it could write an intro for you, and it's going to sound great, depending on how you prompt for it. The problem is it does make up things based on what it's learned. It's failing at simple math because if it scoured a website where somebody did their math wrong, it thinks it's right. It doesn't have any context for what's right or wrong necessarily. So simple math, it's failing at in some cases. It's getting better and better and better. Other things, we've had a case where a lawyer used it to write a response or a rebuttal in a legal suit. It made up its reference and then cited that reference in the document that it responded with. That was called out. That person was, last I heard, that person, they almost disbarred them and pulled their licensure based on using it. And again, it's a tool that I don't think it was malicious by that lawyer. They just didn't understand what it was they were actually using. And so I highly encourage you to use these new tools, but be very cautious and make sure you confirm what's being returned to you as accurate before you send it anywhere or you use it anywhere, because it can be bad material. And I would also caution you to be careful what you put in there for sensitive details. Every company out there is offering AI tools right now. And if you put sensitive data in them, there's no knowing what back-end service they're using as an AI tool. It's probably not them hosting their own AI. They're using it from a third party. And as a result, you don't know where those sensitive details are going. And so you wouldn't want to put out really sensitive information where you don't know where it's going. Lastly, the robotic process automation, you'll hear that floated around. That's really just general automations that have existed in the tech world forever. So if you hear about it, nothing to worry about on that one. AI is not nearly as far as, in some ways, that you'll hear in the media. It's not replacing a ton of jobs anytime soon. Like I said, it makes random stuff up. It gets simple math wrong at the moment. So we're years out from it really replacing jobs. It is, however, doing some things that are honestly more beneficial to malicious actors than it is beneficial to us as normal consumers. We didn't have audio today, so I'll explain what happens in the 60 Minutes video, and then I'll send this out again through Scott's team once this is over. This 60 Minutes clip is only 5 minutes long, I believe. It's pretty incredible what generative AI can do now. With only a couple clips of your voice, you can feed that into a system, and now you can type out whatever you want it to say with your voice and your mannerisms, your pauses, your natural pauses in your voice, your inflection. It's so super simple to imitate or mimic a voice now. In the 60 Minutes video, this is actually a security researcher and she has a consulting firm. She takes the interviewer, collects a few recordings of her voice, calls her assistant, fakes the phone number so it looks like it's coming from the interviewer, to their assistant, and asks for their passport number. The assistant gives up the passport number immediately. That was on the fly while they're in waiting to head into an interview, how easy it was for them to do that. And the reason I bring this up is because it's the modern era of what you have to be very, very careful of. If you get a call from a loved one and it sounds like it's something, or they're asking you something that sounds out of the ordinary, be very, very cautious. You need to very much verify that as a legitimate call. I'd even encourage you to hang up and dial them back to their number to confirm that's what it is, because it can sound exactly like them. They could have any number of personal details to refer to that's gonna make it sound like it truly is that person. That is the modern threat that we face. Beyond that, this is getting even more advanced. This has not hit the mainstream yet. Microsoft just launched a new, and they actually pulled it down. It's not even publicly listed anymore. It was a research model that they created using AI. They took a single static picture, not a video, a picture of an individual, and were able to create live video of that person talking with facial mannerisms and everything, where your average person could not detect that that was not a live video of that person talking. So when you think about that in terms of iChat or whatever it may be, like your Apple services, video chat through your phones and things like that, even if you get a strange call from somebody that you expect, from Scott, asking you for something weird, hang up on Scott. Call him back, call him back. Verify that it's a legitimate call in some form or fashion. Usually the way you do that is you just let people know, hey, let me call you right back and verify if you don't mind. So I'm dialing you now. I tell you what, I got a call just last week from in Topeka, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. Registered on my phone, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. The guy said I missed an appearance in court that I was requested to show in court. He had a local case number. I've been subpoenaed to testify, given my background in a number of cases. It was a legitimate, true case format for our local cases. He had my address, a number of information he probably found on the internet, sounded realistic. And he asked if I wanted to pay the fine for missing that over the phone. As soon as I said, hey, I'm gonna involve my lawyer and I can call you right back, I'm gonna call the sheriff's office and confirm that I missed this appointment, the line went dead. So even threatening to call directly to confirm that it's Scott, if you're questioning, chances are if it's a malicious actor, they're gonna terminate the call at that point because they know they're not going anywhere. But it is something that I really wanted to let you know is coming. Even false video, it's crazy to see it. I wish we had a better way to present that to you here, but I will send those links to you. There is another quick clip of video where if you fast forward, and I'll tell you exactly where to go in this YouTube video, where you can see on the side the picture they used, and you can see the actual generated chat where the person is actually talking. All falsely generated off a single photo. So something to watch out for.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.